Always start with a minimum recommend dosage and see how you get on for a few days, and then you can bump it up. Simon up, bought a hole here, and today we have kind of a crazy story to talk about, but when I did read it, it actually tied into some things that I like to spout out about, so I thought, well, we can use it, and it's important to cover these things sometimes, especially in the world of fitness, where if you don't know, there are a lot of supplements that you can just buy. They haven't really gone through vigorous testing. That doesn't tie into this story, but I mean in general, sometimes people just assume, oh, well, I bought it over a counter or I bought it from a reputable place. I'm sure that it is fine, and it isn't. Again, we don't need to get into that here. But the point is this. A personal trainer has died after taking caffeine powder, the equivalent of up to 200 cups of coffee, an inquest has heard. This comes from the BBC that also goes on to say, father of two, Tom Mansfield, had miscalculated the amount of powder he was meant to use on kitchen scales. An inquest into Ruth and Heard, the 29-year-old from Calwyn Bay, fell ill straight away drinking his mixture on the 5th of January 2021. Reaching a conclusion of misadventure, Coroner John Gittins says the cause of death was caffeine toxicity. Now, essentially, he took about 2 grams of caffeine as far as I can make out. I don't think the sort of specific statistics were released. But 2 grams of caffeine is absolutely nuts when you consider that 1 cup of coffee has around about, on average, 85 milligrams of caffeine. Now, the reason that I wanted to do this video was twofold. Caffeine is a drug. Please be careful with it. Especially on TikTok, you see crazy people putting like 10 scoops of pre-workout into something and drinking it like it's funny, and it's not funny, and it's dangerous. And I know I sound like your dad, but, well, I'm going to sound like your dad. The other point, though, as well, and you may laugh at this, but it's true because I have people asking me about it all the time, is that sometimes people don't actually realize the difference between milligrams and grams. And that's massively important because, of course, you need to have 1,000 milligrams before you even get to 1 gram. So if you do get those two things confused, well, this is the thing that is going to happen. And he goes on to say, caffeine is used by some gym goers, with some fitness websites recommending it for improving sports performance in certain doses. However, experts have warned that when taking powders, there is a risk of consuming over the recommended amount, which of course is true. We've talked about it time and time again. Just stick to what it says on there, and don't snort it, and don't do all these other crazy things that people are doing on social media. Just treat it with a little bit of respect, which is what you should also do to the gym. Now, I want to make it very clear, that's not what happened to this man. Essentially, he got confused between the milligrams and the grams because he used it on a scale that only measured things in grams, and I presume he must have thought it was milligrams. But I would rather nobody had to go through this, ever. It's not worth it. And even if you do take the recommended amount, if it makes you feel a bit jittery, or your heart starts going crazy, or you have palpitations, just stop. Everybody handles caffeine and coffee or whatever and pre-workout differently. Like, I barely take any caffeine. I've got a video coming up, and we'll wait till that video to explain it. My body just does not like it. And does it annoy me? Of course it does. Coffee is awesome, but you just have to accept your lot because it's not worth being in a box. On Tuesday, an inquest heard Mr. Mansfield began clutching his chest and complaining his heart was beating faster after consuming the product. Minutes later, after going to land down, he began foaming at the mouth, which is absolutely terrifying. His wife, Susanna, alerted neighbors and family and called an ambulance. Paramedics tried to resuscitate him for 45 minutes, but he was later pronounced dead at hospital. The hearing was told that the scales Mr. Mansfield had used to measure the powder had a weighing range from 2 to 5,000 grams, whereas he was attempting to weigh a recommended dose of 60 to 300 milligrams. It was this miscalculation which led to a massive overdose. So basically, he wasn't actually even taking sort of specific pre-workout. He was making his own pre-workout, I'm going to presume, because he had a basic, or at least some knowledge about how these products were made. So he thought, well, I'll just piece it together buying, individual ingredients, which probably would be a lot cheaper. So I can totally understand it. But again, just because it says 20 times the amount or whatever, it must have been around about 2 grams of caffeine. And I mean, I have a pre-workout in there, which even if you take the total amount, I think it's like 125, I mean, it's 250, I think. 250 milligrams of caffeine, which ties into this article. So that's just a crazy, crazy amount. And again, I understand it. Loads of people in the comments are going to say, well, that's a massive overdose and so on and so forth. I know, I get this. My general consensus towards it, though, is just to be a bit smart with it. Always start with a minimum recommend dosage and see how you get on for a few days, and then you can bump it up. Never go above the max dosage. It's just not worth it. It's not. And also, don't forget, the more caffeine you do take in, the less effective it becomes. Your body gets used to it. So if you've never had a cup of coffee and you have one on a Monday, you'll be like, holy crap. But if you keep doing that for a few months, you're going to be Mondays down the line going, well, this doesn't do anything anymore. And then you add and add and add. And before you know it, you're taking way too much coffee. The craziest bit, I mean, it's all crazy, but a post-mortem examination showed Mr. Mansfield had caffeine levels of 392 milligrams per litre of blood. I don't even know what to do with that information. Caffeine levels would typically be 2 to 4 milligrams per litre if somebody had drunk a cup of filter coffee. Mr. Gittins said it appeared Mr. Mansfield had been aiming for the mid-range of the recommended dose, but he got his maths wrong and there were unintended consequences which had a fatal fatal effects. Another reason I wanted to talk about this is because I did see this article on a few other websites, and of course, straight away, they do tie it into, oh, the fitness industry is bad and pre-workout is terrible. And I don't appreciate or respect that either. I don't think you should all just throw everything into one big barrel. I think it's more nuanced than that, and you need to go through it. But I do agree with the idea that, like I say, some people just neck it like there's nothing dangerous to it. It's like the same way that people will, I don't know, go on to things like Psalms or whatever the hell it may be, pro hormones, etc. And they just think they can go massively, massively crazy with it just because usually they read something on Reddit. They've read something on Reddit where some guy had gone, well, I know, people say you should take this much, but actually if you double it, you'll get this much gains. And people fall into that trap. And I suppose this all ties into how we see ourselves and the affectation of going to the gym and wanting to be the big guy and wanting to look a certain way on social media. And I can understand that. I can completely relate to it. Of course, when you start lifting weights, I think we've talked about this before, but when you start lifting weights, you start putting on some size or you have that body transformation, and all of a sudden someone goes, oh, hey, big man, or hey, big guy, you're like, oh man, it's the greatest day of my life. And that can get in your head. And if next time you see that person, they drop a comment, something like, oh, you don't look as big as you used to, that will then crush you and you can fall down these paths. But always remember, you're only in competition with yourself when it comes to the gym. Even if somebody is going to say an asshole comment to you, you're allowed to ignore it. They don't define you. They don't make up your chemical makeup. That's completely up to you. Your happiness comes from within and all of that nonsense. And even if you can't train the way you want to, and even if you do lose some musculature or something like that, A, you're going to get it back because you've got muscle memory, but also B, you ain't Batman. This does not define you. And again, I really want to double down that I understand this kind of insecurity. I understand this kind of self-worth, I suppose. A lot of people put their self-worth in the gym. I've been there and I'm still there, not every single day, but I have moments where I feel like that because I'm a human being. And again, this guy didn't do that. I'm not trying to equate the two, but like I say, some people do. They really, really do. Or some people just have disregard for all this stuff. Like I say, they snort. When I first started doing fitness videos, I told people that I'd seen videos, etc., of people snorting creatine. Everyone thought it was a joke. And then this TikTok stuff came in, the whole dry scooping stuff. I think I said snorting earlier. I meant dry scooping, which is also nuts. To the point, this article is on the BBC, and in one of its related articles, it says, doctors warn about dry scooping fitness fad. So even the BBC know. And there's actually two more stories, one of which is US teen died from too much caffeine. Man died after drinking fatal levels of caffeine. So anyway, it's something I read, and it's something that I found kind of fascinating, again, given the way that a lot of us approach fitness. And look, I don't think this guy was suffering from, I don't know, I don't want to make the call, but I don't think this guy was suffering from any kind of, body dysmorphia or anything like that. Again, he probably just thought, well, it makes much more sense if I just buy caffeine in powdered form. But if you are doing that, get the right kind of a scale. Just be as careful as you possibly can and ignore the gym bro at the Fitness Palace of Love that's like, oh man, you need to do double that dose. Do you? Maybe he does. We'll call him Barry. Maybe Barry needs to do double the dose. But do not forget, you are not Barry. You're your own person, and your body is going to react to these things in its own way. So start small, and if you want to add, if you get to the maximum recommended dose and it's still not working for you, just draw a line under it. That particular product is not for you. So there we go. There is my PSA. A lot of people are going to be rolling their eyes, and that's fine. But again, sometimes you read things and you think, well, I have a tiny bit of a platform. I feel like we should talk about it. And I am quite passionate about this stuff. Like I say, it should be next week that video is coming out. Essentially what I did is I don't take that much caffeine, but I introduced it, for many reasons. I thought I'd give it a go. And there were obviously health benefits to it as well. It's not all bad. Of course it's not. And I just started taking in a recommended amount. And then I came off again to see how that kind of disparity would work. And I tell you, it was absolutely no fun. More soon. Also, please do like the video, share the video, and subscribe. Hit the bell ding dings. When other videos are going live, there is a video on the screen, or there will be in a second. Please do give it a click. Go to mind.com/Simon. Use code Simon to get 10% off all their products. Greg Doucette's Power 13 cookbook. Cameo, if you want to shout out, or I'll do whatever you want. Like, the instructions are there. If I don't want to do it, I'll reply to you saying, nope, not doing that. So take your chance and see what happens. Simon@thebigcartel.com for merch. Patreon.com/Simon316 if you want to support me that way. On Twitter and Instagram at Simon316 as well. But more importantly, thank you for watching. Take care of yourself. Be safe. Nothing more important than that. Health and fitness. Most important word is health. See you soon.